What happens when the man who owns 16 drive-through chicken joints goes undercover and ends his shift, stunned by a teenager giving away his last dollars? Yarden Brooks stood in the back office of his 16th location, a small drive-through chicken restaurant tucked behind a gas station off Route 92. The air smelled like fryer oil and bleach. He rubbed the back of his neck. His shirt clung to him. It was hotter in here than anywhere else he'd been all week. He looked at the schedule. Only 4 people were working the dinner shift. One called out with no backup. Again. Staffing here's tight, the district manager had told him days ago. But they're managing. Managing, that word never sat right with him. His dad built this business from a single food truck 30 years ago. After his father passed, Yarden inherited it all, every location, every problem. The stores had grown fast. Too fast. Yarden had never met half the employees working under his name. Customers emailed complaints about cold food and wrong orders. One even sent a photo of a spilled drink with the caption, "This is how you treat people now." He was done reading about it from behind a desk. So he grew out a beard, dyed his hair a dull brown, and put on a name tag that read Doug. He applied through a staffing agency that provided temp food workers. None of the staff had ever met the owner in person. Corporate handled training and onboarding. He was just another guy in a gray shirt. "You ever work fryers before?" the manager, a wiry man named Keith, asked without looking at him. Yarden shook his head. "Nah, but I learn fast," Keith sighed. "You better. We're short again." The place was chaos. Orders came in non-stop. The headset buzzed like a hornet's nest. A teenage girl named Cassie handled the register fast, sharp, never complaining. A quiet kid named Darius worked the fryer. He looked barely out of high school. Another guy, Devin, packed orders and kept snapping at Darius to speed it up, even though the kid was moving quickly. By hour 3, Yarden's shirt was soaked and his arms ached from reaching across the hot table to box chicken. Nobody took a break. They were too behind. At 8:45 p.m., the rush slowed. Darius leaned against the wall, wiping sweat from his brow. "You all right?" Yarden asked. Darius nodded. "Just tired. My ride bailed. Gotta figure out how to get home." "Where do you live?" "About 20 minutes out. I usually carpool with my cousin, but he's stuck at his other job." Cassie, who was counting change at the register, spoke up without looking. "I'll drive you." Darius shook his head. "Nah, you already said you're low on gas." Cassie didn't answer. She walked to her bag, pulled out a few crumpled bills and tossed them on the counter. "I'll make it work." Yarden watched, frozen. She barely had enough for a full tank. He saw her count out coins to make up the rest. "You don't have to do that," Darius said. "I'm not letting you walk home, Dee," she said, voice firm. "We're not doing that." Devin, nearby, scoffed. "You two always gotta make everything dramatic. It's not that deep. Call an Uber." "With what money?" Cassie snapped. "Not all of us have parents sending us Venmo every week." Devin shrugged and walked off. Yarden kept his head down, pretending to wipe the counter, but his chest was tight. He'd seen 100 spreadsheets this year: labor expenses, gas reimbursements, overtime budgets, but none of them showed this. A teenage girl giving up her last bills so a coworker could get home after a 10-hour shift. He packed up the last few leftover orders for the night, hands shaking. Cassie handed Darius a warm meal in a to-go bag and said, "Eat something before we leave." They both looked exhausted. Darius whispered a soft thanks. Yarden swallowed hard. He'd come here looking for a reason to fire people. Now he was wondering what the hell had happened to his company, that this was what survival looked like. Keith walked out from the office, holding his jacket. "All right, I'm out." "Lock up after the last car. Don't forget the deposit." Cassie nodded. "Got it." Keith didn't say goodbye, just left. Yarden turned to Cassie. "You always cover for people like that," she shrugged. "People don't always show up, so yeah, and that was it. No big speech, no complaint. Just doing what's right." Yarden didn't sleep that night. He sat in his car, parked behind the building, watching the security footage on his tablet. Cassie dropping Darius off, her car sputtering as she drove off again. He knew what he had to do tomorrow. The real conversation would begin. Yarden returned the next afternoon, his uniform shirt still carrying yesterday's scent of fryer oil. No one questioned why he came back without a scheduled shift. Keith hadn't even looked at his name the day before. Inside, the crew was already deep in prep. The same 3 employees from last night were there again. Cassie was refilling sauces at the condiment station, her eyes heavy. Darius stood near the sink, rinsing trays. Devin leaned against the back counter, scrolling on his phone in plain sight. "Grab a broom," Cassie said to Yarden without looking up. "We're behind on floors." He nodded and found the broom beside the freezer. No one asked why he was back. No one had time. A few minutes later, a tall woman walked in through the back door. She wore the company-issued polo, crisp and clean, unlike everyone else's. Her name tag read Leslie Regional Supervisor. "Keith asked me to check in," she said, glancing around. "Where is he?" Cassie didn't look up. "He left 20 minutes ago. Said he had a dentist thing." Leslie sighed and walked toward the office without another word. Yarden kept sweeping, but his ears stayed open. Through the cracked door, he caught fragments of Leslie's voice. Inventory short again. Fryer filters not logged. She emerged minutes later, frowning. "You," she said, pointing at Devin. "Did you close last night? Kinda. Cassie did the deposit, though." Cassie stood up straight. "I signed the deposit, yeah, but Devin counted the drawers." Leslie crossed her arms. "There's a $32 variance." Again, Devin shrugged. "Could be the register glitch. You know it freezes." "It didn't freeze," Cassie said without hesitation. "I saw you take tips from the cup." Devin's eyes narrowed. "You serious right now?" Yarden set the broom down quietly. Leslie raised a hand. "That true?" "I saw him take bills when he thought no one was watching," Cassie said. "Out of the tip cup in the drawer." Devin's expression changed, defensive first, then dismissive. "You've got no proof." "I don't need proof," Leslie said, stepping forward. "You've had discrepancies 3 times in the past month and you've been written up twice. You're done here." Devin laughed once, short and sharp. "You're gonna believe her over me." "Yes," Leslie said. "Get your stuff." Devin left, muttering under his breath. He slammed the back door behind him. Yarden watched Leslie carefully. She seemed efficient, but something in her manner felt off, like she only stepped in when things were already burning. After Devin left, Darius glanced toward the fryer. "We're down a person now." Leslie looked at her watch. "I'll cover the register until backup gets here. Corporate's sending someone." Cassie didn't respond. She just moved faster, as if being short-staffed was the default. 2 hours passed. The lunch rush hit hard. Leslie remained at the register, but she didn't understand the flow. She paused between orders, double-checked every button, and forgot to ask for sauces. "Ma'am, you can't leave the window open that long," Cassie said, exasperated, after a car honked twice. Leslie didn't answer. She just turned and walked back to the office. That left the 3 of them again. Yarden moved to the back to help Darius, who was now manning both fryers and the wing station. The kid's hands moved fast, but his shoulders drooped with each motion. "You want me to do the wings?" Yarden asked. Darius nodded, barely meeting his eyes. "Just watch the timer." They worked in silence for several minutes, then Darius finally spoke. "I don't think I can keep this up." Yarden nodded slowly. "What do you mean?" "I'm failing 2 classes. I can't study after shifts like this. I get home and crash." Yarden didn't speak. He couldn't, not yet. He boxed the wings, handed them off to Cassie, and returned to the fryer. His stomach churned. Leslie emerged again, holding a clipboard. "Cassie," she said, "I need you to redo the inventory sheet. It's missing item counts from this morning." "I filled it out before my shift," Cassie said, not looking up. "Same as always." "It's incomplete," Leslie said. "Redo it." Cassie walked over. "I'm not leaving line right now. We're still mid-rush." "I'm not asking," Leslie said. Yarden stepped in. "I can handle wings for a few minutes." Cassie stared at him for a second, then moved to the office. The moment she disappeared, Leslie turned to Darius. "You need to speed up," she said. Ticket times just jumped. Darius didn't reply. He just moved quicker. Oil splashed his wrist, but he didn't flinch. Yarden leaned closer. "You all right?" "I'm fine." Darius mumbled. When Cassie returned, her face was tight. Leslie left without saying anything. An hour later, a young man in a fresh uniform showed up, clearly the corporate backup. His name tag read Aaron. He looked around, confused. "You guys short today?" Cassie didn't answer. He stepped behind the counter and immediately started chatting with a customer at the window, laughing like it was a social call. Cassie moved past Yarden and whispered, "He does this every time. He's from the downtown store. They send him here when they want to pretend like they helped." Yarden watched Aaron fumble the drink machine, spill soda, and walk away without cleaning it up. Cassie wiped it herself. By 4, the store was quiet again. Aaron had disappeared into the back, his phone out. Darius leaned against the walk-in cooler, eyes closed. Cassie handed Yarden a bottled water. "You don't talk much," she said. "Not much to say," he replied. "You work anywhere else?" "No, just trying to figure some things out." She nodded. "Well, if you're sticking around, don't let them burn you out. They'll act like it's normal, but it's not." He looked at her. "Why do you stay?" She hesitated. "I was gonna leave last month, had a job lined up at a pharmacy, but my brother got in a wreck, no insurance, I needed the cash fast." "This place pays quicker." Yarden's chest tightened. Darius walked over, rubbing his eyes. "Cass, I think I left my charger again." She reached into her bag and tossed it to him. Yarden watched them, not just coworkers. They looked out for each other in a way that was built on necessity, not company culture. Leslie returned at closing. She walked straight past the team and into the office, then emerged with her clipboard. "Tell Keith everything was handled," she said flatly. "I'm not coming back this week." Cassie didn't reply. Yarden waited until she left, then he turned to the others. "Either of you ever talked to the owner?" he asked. Cassie laughed once, dry. "The owner? We've never even seen a photo." Darius added, "They're probably on a beach somewhere." Yarden nodded slowly. He clocked out early. Said he had a headache. He didn't. He sat in his car again, same spot as last night, engine off, thinking. There were things he couldn't unsee now. A supervisor who walked past exhaustion. A backup who didn't work. A cashier who gave her gas money away without blinking. A teenager too tired to study. The numbers on his profit reports didn't show any of this. Tomorrow he'd come back not as Doug, but as himself. And this time, people were going to have to answer. Yarden arrived at the store 15 minutes before opening, this time in a pressed button-down and slacks. His beard was shaved clean, hair styled. No name tag, no gray shirt. He parked in the same spot behind the dumpsters, but he wasn't hiding anymore. Keith's car was already there. Through the glass, Yarden could see him sitting in the office, sipping something from a styrofoam cup, scrolling through his phone. The lights inside were still off. No prep had started. Yarden walked straight through the back entrance. Keith looked up, startled. "Can I help you?" "You can," Yarden said. "I'm Yarden Brooks. I own this store." Keith blinked, his expression flickering between confusion and panic. He started to stand. "Sit," Yarden said. "We're going to talk." Keith slowly lowered himself back into the chair. "I worked your dinner shift 2 nights ago," Yarden said. "Under a different name. You didn't notice. You didn't ask." Keith opened his mouth, but Yarden raised a hand. "I saw your crew run that store on fumes. I saw a teenager give up her gas money to get someone home. I saw you leave before close while they stayed behind to clean your mess. And I saw you again yesterday. You didn't even check the line." Keith shifted in his seat. "Sir, I trust the team to. You didn't even know who was on your team." Yarden cut in. "You left 3 people to handle dinner rushes with no breaks, no coverage, no backup. A regional supervisor had to step in, and even she bailed before close." Keith swallowed hard. "I also saw a crew member stealing tips. He's gone now, but I want to know how that went unnoticed under your watch." Keith reached for the folder on the desk. "I've filed write-ups. I track labor. You don't track anything," Yarden said sharply. "You use the same excuse every time." "They're managing. That's not leadership." Keith stood. "Look, I've been running this location for 3 years. I know what it takes." "Apparently not," Yarden said, "and that ends today." Keith opened his mouth again, but Yarden didn't wait. "You're done. Clean out your things." I'll have your final paycheck processed. The store opens in 20 minutes, Keith said, voice rising. You think you can run this place without a manager? I don't think, Yarden said. I know I can. Because I've seen who's really keeping this place alive. Keith stared at him for a moment, then grabbed his keys and left without another word. By the time Cassie arrived, Yarden was already behind the line, apron tied, gloves on, prepping chicken trays. Cassie froze when she saw him. He looked up, mourning, her eyes narrowed, confused. Wait, yeah, he said. Not Doug, Yarden, I own this place. She stood by the sink, arms crossed. You're kidding. I'm not, he said, and I owe you an apology. She didn't say anything, but she didn't leave either. I watched you take care of people when no one else did, he said. I watched you cover for an absent manager, clean up after someone who got paid more than you, and give up the last of your cash without hesitation. She looked away for a second. It wasn't a big deal. It was, he said. And I should have seen it sooner. Darius walked in a few minutes later, earbuds in, hoodie half-zipped. He stopped mid-step when he saw Yarden. Cassie turned to him. That's the owner. Darius pulled out his earbuds. What? Yarden gave him a nod. Thanks for letting me work next to you the other night. Darius stared at him, unsure if this was some kind of prank. You were cooking wings badly, Yarden admitted, but you didn't say anything, you just kept moving. Cassie narrowed her eyes. What are you doing here now? Yarden pulled a clipboard from the prep table. Keith's gone, I'm stepping in for now, she blinked. Wait, you fired him. He wasn't doing the job, Yarden said. You were, so was Darius. So was everyone else who showed up and actually worked. Cassie looked around, still processing. So, what now? Now, Yarden said, we open, but not like before. They ran the opening shift together. Yarden stayed on the line, watching every station not as a boss but as a backup. When the register jammed, he fixed it. When the fryer oil got low, he changed it. He didn't talk much, just worked. Aaron showed up mid-shift, same untucked shirt, same wandering eyes. He walked in sipping an energy drink. Yo, he said. Where's Keith? Gone, Cassie said, drying her hands. Aaron looked at Yarden. You from corporate? I'm your boss, Yarden said. And I watched you disappear for an hour yesterday. Aaron blinked. Wait, what? You were supposed to support the crew, Yarden said. Instead, you scrolled your phone, ignored spills, and left others to clean up after you. Okay, hold on, I was just doing what they told me at downtown. You're not going back to downtown, Yarden said. You're done here. Aaron's face contorted, somewhere between confusion and frustration. You can't just, I can, Yarden said, and I just did. Aaron stood there, stunned. Cassie walked past him and opened the freezer. You can pick up your final check next week, Yarden said. Leave your shirt at the door. Aaron left without another word. By midday, the store felt different. Not easier, just clearer. Everyone knew who was showing up and who wasn't. At 3, Yarden called Cassie and Darius into the office. I'm not here to give speeches, Yarden said, but I am here to fix what I broke by being absent. Cassie leaned against the wall. Darius sat in the chair, legs bouncing. You two have been carrying more than your share. That ends today. Neither spoke. I'm hiring a new manager, someone who knows what it means to lead, not just schedule. I want your input in that process. Cassie raised an eyebrow. You're asking us. You're the ones who have been in it, Yarden said. You know what this place needs better than I do from a spreadsheet. Darius spoke quietly. The schedules, they're killing us. I've seen it, Yarden said. I'm going to bring in one more full-time hire immediately. No shift should run with fewer than 4 people. Not ever. Cassie stared at him. You're serious. I'm here, he said. That's how serious I am. He pulled 2 envelopes from his folder and handed them over. Cassie opened hers. Inside was a bonus voucher and a raise confirmation. Darius opened his, hands trembling slightly. You earned it, Yarden said. Both of you, not just for working hard, but for holding the line when no one else did. Cassie looked at the paper, then back at him. This covers my brother's last bill. Yarden nodded. It should. Darius didn't speak. He just folded his envelope and put it in his pocket. Yarden stood. I'll be on site this whole week. We're not going back to how things were. Cassie exhaled slowly. Good. They returned to the floor in silence. The dinner shift came fast. Cassie ran point, barking orders with new authority. Darius moved lighter. Even the regular customers seemed to sense something had shifted. As the sun dipped below the strip mall signage, Yarden stood by the back wall, arms crossed, watching his team, not his numbers, carry the store. This time, he wasn't invisible, and he wasn't leaving. The rain started around 6. Not hard, but steady enough to blur the view from the drive-through window. Inside, the kitchen was running smoother than it had in weeks. Orders still came fast, but there was a rhythm now measured, responsive. Darius worked with less tension in his shoulders, and Cassie had stopped checking the clock every 10 minutes. Yarden stayed mostly behind the prep table, assembling trays and watching the team's movements. Every time someone needed help, he was already stepping in. Not because he had something to prove anymore, but because it was his responsibility. At 7:30, a silver minivan pulled into the lot and parked crooked across 2 faded lines. A man in a wrinkled shirt stepped out, carrying a black binder and a coffee with his name scribbled on it. He walked in through the customer entrance and leaned on the counter like he owned the place. Cassie looked up. "Can I help you?" He didn't answer, just scanned the menu and tapped the counter. "I'm here for the manager, Keith." "Where is he?" Cassie dried her hands on a towel, nodded toward the back. "You'll want to talk to Mr. Brooks." The man raised an eyebrow. "Who?" Yarden stepped around the side, wiping his gloves clean. "That's me." The man blinked. "Wait, Yarden Brooks, that's right, and you are?" "Travis. I'm from Central Ops. I handle compliance audits and regional support. I wasn't told you'd be on site." "I wasn't planning to be," Yarden said. "I changed my mind." Travis shifted his stance, suddenly unsure of himself. "Keith said this store was stable, numbers looked fine." "Staffing's tight everywhere right now." "Keith's gone," Yarden said. "So is the temp from downtown. We're rebuilding." Travis looked around. "With who?" Cassie was already back at the fry station, refilling trays. Darius passed behind her, calling out a timer check. Yarden didn't answer Travis's question. He didn't need to. The answer was right in front of him. Travis opened his binder. "If you're planning changes, I'll need to update the regional structure." "You can do that," Yarden said, "but we're not doing top-down anymore. This location's going to help define its own standards. I'll send you the new expectations after I finish writing them with input from the floor." Travis hesitated. "That's unconventional." "So was letting a teenager run your evening rushes," Yarden said. "We're correcting that now." Travis closed the binder. "Understood, I'll adjust my visit schedule." "You do that," Yarden replied. Travis left as quickly as he arrived, still holding the coffee he never drank. By 9, the storm outside had picked up. The lot was emptying, but a few cars still rolled through. One pulled up with a cracked passenger window and a coughing engine. Inside was a woman with 2 kids in the back seat, both asleep. Cassie leaned toward the speaker. "Welcome to Brooks Chicken. Go ahead when you're ready." The voice that came through was quiet. "Just a small fries, that's all." Cassie glanced at Yarden. No words passed between them. He nodded once. She rang in the order, then added a 4-piece meal, no charge. "Pull forward when you're ready." The woman looked confused when Darius handed her the tray. "This isn't what I ordered." Cassie leaned out the window. "It's on the house tonight. Drive safe." The woman blinked, then nodded once, eyes glossy. She drove off slow. Yarden stepped beside Cassie. She spoke first. "She came in last week. Same car, ordered a kid's cup of water and nothing else." Yarden nodded. "Good call." They didn't say anything else. At close, Yarden gathered the team in the office. Just 4 of them now: himself, Cassie, Darius, and a new hire named Lena from the next town over, who'd been referred by Cassie and had finished her first full shift without a single missed ticket. Yarden sat on the edge of the desk. "Starting next week, we're shifting the schedule. No more back-to-back closes. You'll each get at least 1 weekend day off. I'm bringing in 2 more full-timers to fill the gaps, but I'll stay on rotation until they're trained." Darius looked up. "You're staying on shift?" I built this place with my father, Yarden said. But I let distance turn into disconnect. That won't happen again. Lena spoke for the first time. You're the first owner I've seen mop a floor, Yarden smiled. Then we've got work to do, so that won't be surprising anymore. He handed out new shift sheets. Each had handwritten notes next to the names Small Things. Fast on drive-through, knows regulars by name, strong under pressure. Cassie stared at hers. You watched us that closely? I was supposed to be watching all along, he said. They filed out, quiet but not tense. Tired but not depleted, outside the rain had stopped. The air smelled like wet pavement and fryer oil. Cassie lingered by her car, keys in her hand. Yarden joined her. She didn't look over. I almost quit last week. I know. I was so sure nobody cared. Like we were invisible. You're not. She finally turned. You staying just for this store, for now, Yarden said. Then I'll move on to the next one, but I'm not sending reports this time. I'm showing up. Cassie nodded. Good, they'll need it. Darius honked from the lot. Cass, you good? She waved. Yeah, go ahead. She got into her car, started the engine. The sputter was still there, but she didn't mention it. Yarden watched the taillights disappear down the road. Then he turned back to the building. Inside, the fryer lights were off, counters wiped. Registers balanced. No missing tips. No unanswered calls. He locked the door and stood for a moment in the quiet. It had taken a teenager's sacrifice to remind him what leadership really looked like, not policies, not margins, people. And this time he wouldn't forget.